Welcome everyone. Let's begin our lesson for today by going over our learning goals and success criteria. First, what are we learning? We're learning how to find the length of the sides of a right triangle by using trigonometric functions. How are we learning it? Through the finding side lengths using trigonometric properties notes and finding side lengths using trigonometric properties assignment. When can we use this? To repair the roof of your house while making sure that the base of the roofing is flush with the house and the slope of the roof allows for water runoff. How do we know we learned it? By getting a score of 4 on the finding side lengths using trigonometric properties assignment. Now let's take a look at our agenda for today. We will begin by going over our learning goals and success criteria. While we do that, you'll fill out your Get It Started. Once you've completed your Get It Started, we'll go over it together and answer any questions that you may have. After that, we'll do our weekly raffle. Then we will get into the finding side lengths using trigonometric properties notes. And then I'll give you time to complete the finding side lengths using trigonometric properties assignment. Once you've completed the assignment, we'll go over it together and answer any questions that you may have. At the end of class, we will go back over our learning goals and success criteria while you fill out your before you go. Your only homework for tonight is to continue working on the reasoning with irrational number study guide and any incomplete assignments that you may have. Let's take a look now at the finding side lengths using trigonometric properties notes. Our notes begin with the learning goals and success criteria. Now, what are the parts of a right triangle? Well, if you notice, a right triangle has 3 sides, and this is our 90-degree angle. We call the side opposite of the 90-degree angle, or the longest side, we call that the hypotenuse. Then each of the other 2 sides we call our legs, and if we're looking at this angle here, this is considered the opposite angle. So notice it's the side that's opposite of where this angle is located. So if we drew an arrow from it, it would go straight to this side. So that's the opposite. And the side right next to it we call the adjacent side. So we have hypotenuse, we have opposite, and we have adjacent. Now, what are the trigonometric properties? The first one we call sine. And sine is the opposite side over the hypotenuse. So it's a ratio of the side lengths with the opposite side being on top and the hypotenuse length being on bottom. Now cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So we have our near side that will take that length over the length of the hypotenuse. Now tangent is opposite over adjacent. So it's the length of the opposite side over the length of the adjacent side. The way we can remember this is SOHCAHTOA. So SOHCAHTOA is the easiest way to remember it. So is sine opposite over hypotenuse. Ka is cosine is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. And TOA is tangent is equal to opposite over adjacent. Now, how do we use these trig properties? So let's say I wanted the sine of, we call this theta. So we want the sine of theta. So sine, remember, is SOH, cosine is CAH, and tangent is TOA. So we're going to take this and we're going to go opposite, which is 4, over the hypotenuse, which is 5. So the sine of theta is 4 over 5. Now we have the cosine. So the cosine is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. So the adjacent side is here. So this is 3 over 5. And tangent is opposite over adjacent. So the opposite is 4. And the adjacent is 3. So it would be 4 over 3. Now how do we find side lengths? So we're given a triangle here. And we're told that we need to find this length x. And we know that this side is 3 and this angle is 35 degrees. So first of all, we need to decide which trig function we need to use. Well, in this case, we have an angle. And from this angle, we have an opposite and an adjacent. We know absolutely nothing about this one. Even though we don't know what this is, we know that that's what we need to find. So we know the opposite and the adjacent. So the function that uses opposite and adjacent is tangent. So we're going to say that tangent 35 degrees is equal to opposite over adjacent, which is x over 3. So now we know that tangent 35 degrees is equal to x over 3. Now we need to get x by itself, so the 3 is dividing from x, so we're going to undo that by multiplying. So we multiply both sides by 3, and now we get 3 tangent 35 degrees is equal to x. Well, now we have x by itself, so we just need to plug this into our calculator. There's a link here that'll take you to the trigonometry calculator. So we're going to enter that into our calculator, 3 tangent 35 degrees. And when we do that, we should see that it ends up being 2.10 about. So this side here would be about 2.10. So that's how we can find a side length from an angle and a given side. Let's look at another example. What if this time we need to find the hypotenuse? So again, we know that this is 35 degrees. And here we have an adjacent and a hypotenuse that we can work with. So adjacent and hypotenuse would be cosine. So we'd say cosine of 35 degrees is equal to 3 over x. Well, again, we need to get x by itself, but x is being divided by, so we need to go ahead and move it to the other side first. So we'll multiply both sides by x, and we get x cosine of 35 degrees is equal to 3. Well, we still don't have x by itself, so we need to get rid of cosine 35 degrees. Well, to move this part over to the other side, we're going to divide by cosine of 35 degrees. Or another way of saying divide by cosine 35 degrees is multiply by 1 over cosine 35 degrees. So now we get x is equal to 3 times 1 over cosine 35 degrees. Now we're going to just enter that into our calculator. And the calculator link is here. So you can go ahead and click on that link. And when you enter it into your calculator, you should see that 3 times 1 over cosine 35 degrees is equal to 3.66. Let's look at one more example. So now we have that this is 35 degrees, and we know that this side is x, this side is 3. So we know the opposite, and we know the hypotenuse. So we'll go ahead and set it up. We know that with opposite and hypotenuse, that would be sine. So we're going to say sine of 35 degrees is equal to x over 3. Now we're going to get rid of this 3. So it's being divided by x, so we're going to multiply both sides by 3. And we get 3 sine 35 degrees is equal to x. So now we have x by itself, so we can enter this part into the calculator. So we'll go ahead and enter 3 sine 35 degrees into the calculator. And when we do that, we solve it and we get 1.72 as our x. There's a video here that shows you how you can use calculator.net to find side lengths. So you can go ahead and watch that video and figure out how to find side lengths. Let's talk now about how you can check your work when finding the length of a side of a right triangle when you're given one side and an angle. So let's say that in this picture we're trying to find A and we have B. We know that B is 3. And we know that angle alpha, in this case, this angle, is 60 degrees. Let's go ahead and we'll hit calculate. And it tells us what the lengths of each of the sides are and each of the angles are. So we can see that A, in this case, is 5.19615, or 3 square root of 3. And C is 6. We can also see that angle beta, this one here, is 30 degrees, and this angle here is 90 degrees. So we can use this information to help us solve for these different angle measures and side lengths. Let's take a look now at the finding side lengths using trigonometric properties. The assignment begins with our learning goals and success criteria. If we scroll down, we can take a look at the questions. So the first one says that this is 30 degrees, this is 1, and this is x. So what we know is, we know this angle, we know this side length, we don't know this one. So what we should notice is we have the opposite and the hypotenuse that we're using. So this would be sine of 30 degrees is equal to 1 over x. And when we solve that, we should recognize that the answer should be 2. So we'll go ahead and mark that as our answer. And we'll continue to find the side lengths, just like this, for all the questions. Once you get to the end, we'll go ahead and click Next. This will send you to your Before You Go. Go ahead and fill out your Before You Go and then submit your work on Google Classroom.